you know what cheese curds, motorcycles, and surf rods have in common? Turns out the best of all come from Wisconsin.
That's right. We're talking the 77-year-old, family-owned American company, St. Croix Rod, where the surf is no part-time business. Offering 41 models across 5 distinct surf series, St. Croix has been designing and handcrafting high-performance, tech-forward surf rods for decades.
Simply put, St. Croix combines the best technology and components with the lengths, powers, and actions demanded by discerning anglers up and down the Striper Coast. All this to say that St. Croix is the premier choice for anglers who demand the best rods on earth. Check out the full lineup at stcroixrods.com.
Beginning in the 1970s as a mail-order catalog, the Surfcaster has long been known as the source for hard-to-find surf fishing gear, and I've been personally shopping with them since the 1980s. They offer honest advice and the best recommendations regardless of your experience level, and will tailor their suggestions to what you actually need.
As you would expect from a business that's been serving the surfcasting community for 50 years, their prices are competitive and delivery is always quick and secure. They want you to have the best possible experience in the surf and have the knowledge and inventory to put the right gear in your hands to make that happen. So check out the Surfcaster at www.thesurfcaster.com, and if you're in the area, stop into their brand new brick and mortar store in Shelton, Connecticut.
Welcome to another episode of the Surfcast podcast. And today we got another episode that everybody keeps asking for more of from us, and that is a gear we use episode. Going to do it a little bit differently. Normally, if you recall from the past episodes, we try to bang out some new stuff that we're both using, we're working through on the season, and I believe yours are newer to you, at least, products, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
but
mine are all new.
Yeah, and all of mine fall into that classics realm that we started doing. So mine are definitely not brand new to the world of surfcasting, but they're stuff that's been around for a few seasons. They're things that I wholeheartedly believe in and use day in and day out. So hopefully you will appreciate that. So let's jump right into it and send it over to you, Jerry. You can get it started today.
Sure. So yeah, like Toby said, my products are all new to me. We're recording this in late May, almost June, and I've been using them for at least a month and a half, some of them. Some of them actually longer than that. One of them in particular, the product we're going to talk about last, I've had for more than a year, actually, Toby. So I guess that isn't like a new product. But
yeah,
the first thing I would like to talk about is not... we were debating. This isn't the most seasonally specific topic because it's a warm layer. But where I fish... it's cold enough that you might need something like this through the month of June. And boy, this season, you might need it into August, the way things have been going. So the first product I have for you guys today is the Grundens Grundie Thermal FZ Hoodie. It's part of Grundens' layering system. And got this a few weeks ago, actually. Well, a month ago, I guess. And I've been wearing it a lot. And I really, really like it. But before I go into specifics about what I like about it, I just want to get on my soapbox for a second, because I don't know how much I've talked about this in the podcast, and I'm going to bring it up constantly if I haven't. I think maybe I have a little bit, but one of the things that makes you catch more fish is your ability to fish more. This means both the number of trips, so number of times you get out there, but also the amount of time you can stay out. This is why, try not to get too tired out can be advantageous, so you're not out there dying and you're able to pay attention. This is why being in shape can be advantageous, because you can go further, stay out longer, be on your feet, etc. But your clothing can make a huge difference in your ability to stay out there and fish. And so something as simple as your socks, for example, can actually make a big difference in your ability to fish. And I don't mean to pick on him, and I'm sure it's changed since this, but I was reading a column by John Skinner from 12, 14 years ago in SJ. And in it, he was like, I got my tube socks, my jeans, and I put my sweatpants over the tops of my jeans under my waders. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't take it. I can't take it. Trust me. If that's you, I'm not making fun of you. I'm really not. But there are cheap and simple ways layers, I should say, of things to wear that are more comfortable than jeans or even sweatpants. But the point of all of that is to say, I have a crusade against cotton. And maybe I have talked about this in the podcast. I don't know. But for the surf guy, yeah, maybe the boat guy, because, boat guys, whatever. But for the surf guy, you should not have 1 ounce of cotton on you. Not your socks, not your underwear, not your t-shirt, nothing. Because the chances of you getting sweaty or wet are just too high. And as soon as you do, one of 2 things are going to happen. You're either going to be cold or you're going to chafe. That's it. And both of those things suck. And the Grundie Thermal FZ hoodie is one of those things where it's like, is it really worth it? Because it's not exactly cheap. They're not cheap. I think they're like $100. So it's not a cheap thing. But it's one of those things where if you invest in it, it's going to help you fish longer. And if you fish longer, if you can stay out longer, then you're going to catch more fish. You got to be smart. You got to know your tides. You got to know your lures. You got to all that stuff. I'm not suggesting that you should just be out there grinding. But if you could stay out there longer, you're going to catch more fish. Now, the things I specifically like about, so that's the crusade. All right, I'm getting off it. I'm not going to, though. I'm going to keep repeating it, and I actually feel even stronger than what I'm letting on right now, but I'm just going to let it rest for a second. Toby's smiling if you're not watching the video. I get very upset about this. So, very upset. The things I like about this specifically. Now, it's not a wind blocking layer. They say, I think they advertise it as like it kind of is, but it's definitely not. It's not really wind block at all. It's fleece line on the inside. It really is something good to put under something else, even though it's got a hood, even though it's designed as sort of an over. If it's not going to be that windy or it's not going to be that cold, it's fine. Like I used it the other night and I was at a wind that was maybe 10 knots and it was fine. But, if you're in a 15 plus knot, 20 knot wind, it's not, the wind's going to cut right through it, despite its warmth, excuse me. But the beauty of it, because of what I'm saying about it not being wind blocking, it breathes really well. It's a really, really breathable layer. So I was out the other night and it was cold and I definitely needed it. I actually had a wool layer underneath it. But also I was huffing it and I walked 6 miles that night and I got really sweaty. And so now it's like I need to be warm, but I'm also sweaty, and oh, by the way, I'm going to be out here for 5 or 6 hours. That's when you need something like this. And I really, really felt that this layer, this FZ hoodie, was a perfect balance, where I was warm, but when it needed to vent, it did really well. It's got some other stuff that's nice. It's got a nice zipper, which is good. It's got a front pocket, which is good. It's a full zip all the way down. It's like got a chest pocket, which can be useful. But that breathability was really the thing I like. And I can tell you right away, again, this is kind of a pet peeve of mine, but I'm also a little bit obsessed with this stuff. And that goes back to my cross-country skiing days and cross-country running days and stuff. And mountain biking stuff, really into technical apparel, all my backpacking days. So I'm kind of into it. So I can tell you right away that this is also going to be rugged. That yes, I've only had it for, a month or 6 weeks, but it's going to be tough. It's not going to pull. It's not going to rip. It's like, I can tell it's tough. The last thing I'll say about it before I kick it over to Toby is I really like the hood. And this also sounds like kind of a stupid thing. It's a hood. What's the big deal? But it's got a tight hood. It's designed to have sort of that climber's hood where it's like tight versus, my Sim surf top, for example, the hood, you could build a tent. You could like live in it. The hood is so big that you could put it over a helmet, right? And I have no idea why they did that, because if you're wearing like a beanie, you can't use the hood because it's down over your eyes. You zip it up, it's like, oh, it's pouring rain. I got to put the hood up and I'm going to zip it up. And now, the hood is over my eyes and I can't even breathe because it's covering my mouth. I can't see what I'm doing. So the Grundens Thermal FZ hoodie, it's like a tight, small hood. So if you're wearing a cap or if you're wearing a baseball hat, it holds tight to your face. And I actually really like that. I like that when you zip it up. Oh, one more thing. I talked for a really long time about this, so I don't want to take up too much time, which I already kind of have, haven't I, Toby? It has a built-in face covering. So that's a really cool thing. And I wasn't so sure how I'd feel about it because I was like, is it going to be in the way? And, whatever. You don't even notice it's there if you don't use it. But it's really easy to use. And when you pull it over the top of your head and over your face, it's actually pretty easy to pull down over your chin if you want to take it off for a little bit. Like, it's not constantly in the way. So that's kind of a cool thing. I've never had a top with that. They're not the first ones to do it, obviously, but I've never had a top with that built in. So A+, very happy, psyched about it.
One quick question on or clarify. So you're wearing this with waders. This is one of your in conjunction with waders only, or not? It's not something you're throwing on with the wetsuit.
This is not something I'm throwing on with wetsuit. This is just with the waders.
Yeah. All right. I assumed as much, but wanted to just make sure I had it going right there.
Yeah. Really like it. It's definitely worth it. I think it's going to last a really long time too. So
nice. All right, so there's a new product. So again, like I said, mine are going to be classics to describe them better. And it's something I've actually, if you watched the season goals episode, talked about getting, one of my goals for the year is fishing eels again, getting sort of back into giving them a shot instead of just a passing, throwing the dead eels here and there, planning on fishing live eels consistently this year. Now, unfortunately, as of the time today that we're talking about this, I have yet to buy any live eels, but...
don't give away the May Moon. Don't give away the May Moon stuff.
Well, we're not done yet. There's still time in this one. But as part of that, preparing for it, I had to, double check my rigging. Everything was set. So I went and dug out the hooks that I was last using when I was consistently, regularly using eels. And I did some shopping around and looking at some different things. And, it was one of those, like, why am I trying to improve on something that was essentially fitting the bill? I'm not going to say perfect, but it did everything I needed. And I had no complaints on it. And that's the Gamakatsu Inline Octopus Circle SE, the 4X model. So that's the heavier duty. They have like a 2X, which I know a lot of boat fishermen use the 2X. And for me, with this hook, and actually a lot of the Gamakatsus when I've used them over the years, it doesn't come down to wanting that like crazy heavy duty hook for strength. It's actually more about having the thicker wire when I'm casting, repeatedly casting. What I found on the, quote, lighter hooks is they were always strong enough to stand up to the fish, but that thinner wire would tend to almost cut through and pull out easier. Yeah. It would, these heavier gauge, whether it was the before the circle hook requirements, when I was using the heavy duty, like the big game bait hooks, they were actually tuna hooks. And again, it wasn't because I was all like, macho, got to use a tuna hook for my stripers. It was because the thicker wire gauge. Similar on my chunking setup when I'm, which is a different hook I use. I like the thicker gauge because in that way too, it holds in better. It doesn't tear out. So I'm using these Gamakatsu, primarily 7/0. Now, if one thing I've complained about over the years is circle hook to circle hook, company to company, there's no consistency. I mean, even within one company's line of circle hooks, a 7/0 is not a 7/0 is not a 7/0. But I found with these, the 6/0 is fine for, let's say, small to medium eels. The 7/0 pretty much covers everything. From the biggest eels you're going to buy or even trap that are still, realistically feasible to fish, to the smallest eel that I would accept from a tackle shop if I didn't get a chance to pick my own. They might look a little large at times in some of those smaller eels, but again, it kind of comes down to another theory. I mean, if a fish is willing to strike a plug with a big stupid treble hook, I'm not that worried about like burying this tiny little hook in the head of my eel. I would rather have a solid hook, a large gap, which these 7/0 model has a very large gap. It's got the straight, it's the inline, so it's not the offset eye. So I'm able to use the power snell that I use on all of my circle hooks, and it's the same rigging setup as I have for the chunking. It's the 50-pound big game, the swivel, the knot, tie it all through, and I'm good to go. And again, when I was very regularly using eels, even before circle hooks became requirement, this is the hook I was using, and it's what I'm using this year as I hopefully fulfill one of my season goals of 2025 to fish live eels more frequently. I bet if you added it up, more striped bass were caught from the surf last year on plastic swimmers than any other plug, probably even more than bucktails. The reason is simple. For generations, the plastic swimmer has proven to be a versatile, effective, and affordable fish-catching machine.
And that's where the new Hogy OG Swimmer comes in. Unlike most of the other modern swimmers that all look and act alike, The OG Swimmer brings together a traditional design with modern enhancements to offer anglers with a unique and highly effective swimming plug unlike anything else currently on the market. With a unique wobbling action, it moves like an injured baitfish, and it's a large profile, chunky and tubular, and measuring in at 7 inches. Plus, with a downturn line tie, the OG Swimmer stays shallow, making it ideal for surf anglers.
All of this is tied together in an extra hard body that's through-wired and decked out with VMC hooks and a hand-tied bucktail teaser. And just like the Hoagie needlefish, you won't find a rear hook on this lure, which is better for the fish, better for your hands, and easier on your wallet. This is all part of the Hook One platform, as well as Hoagie's new core philosophy, quality for today, conservation for tomorrow. To find out more about this mission, and to pick up one of these premium OG swimmers, be sure to check out www.hoagielures.com.
So my next product that I would like to bring to everyone's attention, I have to give a little bit of a preamble because I'm going to get haters. And that's too bad. You guys can either trust me or not. I mean, if you're listening, I hope that you trust that Toby and I only give authentic opinions on stuff. We hold our tongues on some stuff, and other stuff, if it's good, we're going to tell you no matter what we feel about everything. And so the next product I'm going to bring to your attention is the Hoagie Perfect Needle, the Hoagie Needlefish. And yes, Hoagie has been one of our sponsors now for months. They were our first sponsor, in fact. So take this for what you will, but I can assure you that I would be reviewing this no matter what. And you can ask Toby. I've been hyping this thing to him and like trying to get him to get out there and fish it. I mean, we're fishing different kinds of water. Also, my other friends, I'm texting them like, guys, you got to get this freaking thing. It's going to be a weapon. So the Hoagie Perfect Needle, I'm just going to start calling it the Hoagie Needlefish. The Hoagie Needlefish. I swam it early on. I used it a little bit just to prove it was good. Wanted to, see how it swam, etc. And I reviewed it for Surfcasters after I'd caught like a couple of fish on it, and it was fine. And I was like, okay, this is pretty good. But since then, I have been carrying it every single night. Literally every single night. Because not necessarily because I'm like, oh, I have to have it, but because I'm so excited about it. Because I see potential. When I am choosing a plug to put in my bag, I view my plug bag as a puzzle that needs to be filled with puzzle pieces. And I'm always looking for a puzzle piece that's different from something that's totally different from anything else I have, that can do something different from everything else I have. So I've talked about on the podcast, I think, for example, Mad Mantis. Mad Mantis Duck, I think I've mentioned, and the Quake. Those are weird plugs that do something different. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Super Strike plugs and soft plastics and stuff. The Hoagie Needlefish, to me, is suddenly something new that I didn't even know I needed. When I first got my hands on it, I thought it was going to kind of be like the Super Strike Heavy. That's really what I thought it was going to be. It's pretty heavy. I thought it sinks moderately, and I thought that it was going to sort of be like a swinging bucktail version of a needlefish. Saw the video of it swimming, and I was like, okay, whatever. But since then, I have caught in boulder fields, I have caught around herring, and I have caught on sand beaches with it. And the thing that I don't understand yet, and I will admit, I'm not someone who spends a lot of time out there swimming it in a lake or, some river outflow trying to figure out like why it's doing what it's doing. But the thing that I'm really surprised by is it doesn't sink that fast. Like when you're actually using it, you can swim it through much more shallow water than my initial assessment. Frankly, even when I did the SJ review, excuse me, since then, I have changed my opinion about it. And I think that you can swim it in places that you would use pretty much any other needle. You might have to go a little faster. But I have a spot where I really like the 24/7 9-inch, for example. It's my go-to, and it's still my go-to. But I like it because that spot is pretty shallow, and the fish are holding shallow, and you can kind of just swim that sucker right through there and never worry about touching bottom with it. Well, I'm able to use the Hoagie. I can't believe it. I mean, I got to go faster. There's no doubt. I got to go faster. But just a phenomenal plug, and they're super tough. The last thing I'll say, maybe this will give me some credit back. It does have one major problem, and it might have more, but the one major problem I found so far, fixed hangers. I really wish Mike had made it with different hangers, but it's got fixed hangers, and it doesn't have swivels. So I've had fish come off quite a bit. There was one night in particular where I lost 5 or 6 fish, one that was pretty decent. And by decent, I mean like I've had, 45-inch plus fish there. So this was a decent fish, not a 30-inch fish. They twist off. I can tell that they're twisting off. I'm getting them on, I'm fighting them halfway in, and they're coming off. So my solution so far for that, and I have not had a chance to test it on a really big fish yet. I've actually gone to single inline. I tried double split ring. I don't like how far back the hook sits if I do a swivel, like a canal rig as they call it. So I've gone to a single inline, a Mustad Ultra Nor 4.0 hook on a single split ring. And I've landed some fish on it, no problem. And I've been keeping track of how many hits I've missed. I'm about 75% with hits to landing, which is at least what I normally do. So, so we're going to see. And maybe I'll give an update in the next one, in the next gear up about that. But it's a great plug. It's a really great plug that you can just go buy. You don't have to wait in line somewhere or something like that. So
nice. Good to have another needlefish, a solid needlefish option on the market for sure. Not that we don't already have a lot, but it's good that it's
there aren't a ton. I mean, there aren't a ton that you can get regularly. You know what I mean? 24/7 Super Strike. I mean, who else can you get like all the time?
Even Gibbs is tough to come by some places.
Exactly.
I don't see them as widespread as I once did. So yeah.
Exactly. And then each shop is going to have their little selection of whoever they have. But yeah.
All right. Well, my next product is, again, continuing with the classics, and it's actually it's a two for one here, because they're both the same, but they're both different, as you will see. And I'm going to talk about my footwear. I'm pretty sure you talked about what you're using for your footwear with some of the boots last season, if I remember correctly.
Yes, one of the last gears I brought up the Sims that I really liked. Yes.
Yeah, so I figure it's my turn to tell you all what I'm using on my feet. For the most part, I've got about a dozen pairs of boots that cycle at different times, but the two that I use the majority of the time are both made by Korkers. They're Korkers boots with the interchangeable soles. Make sure I get it right. It's the Omnitrax, the 3.0. And that's the sole system that you can swap out. They've got spikes and rubber and felt and studded rubber and all these different options. So the first setup is when I'm wetsuiting. When I'm wetsuiting, I actually go down a size on my boot from what I would normally wear with my waders. Because I'm using a thinner bootie in there. There's no sock. There's just less in there. So where I'm using a 12 standard with my waders, I'm going with a size 11, and I use the Korkers River Ops with the Boa system. Now, the Boa system is the little cable that there's the little twisty thing, and the cable runs through and tightens it up. And I've heard a lot of negatives over the years on the Boa system, and I believe it's more of a problem if you're in sand. Guys have run into problems with this little sand granules getting in there, which is not something I run into essentially ever when I'm wetsuiting. I may walk across a little sand on one or two spots, but the majority of when I'm wetsuiting, I'm fishing on rocks. So the Boa system has not been a problem whatsoever with getting jammed. I rinse it out, splash a little WD-40, and this is, if I'm not mistaken, the start of the fourth season on those boots, as I had some of the prototypes when Korkers was first working through them. And even then I said, I'm a little nervous in a saltwater environment doing as many trips, and they're like, well, let's just give it a shot. And I love them. They have the ability to fine tune just how tight and secure I have them on my feet is amazing with the Boa system. That's one of the benefits that's always been touted with that type of a lace up, and I didn't think it could actually have that big of a difference. I absolutely love it. When you tighten with laces, and for me at least, inevitably they kind of loosen over a little time. Maybe they come undone, what have you. These things lock and get to where you want, and you're good to go. For the actual soles, I want the whole system to be kind of light, whether I'm swimming or just covering ground. When I'm in the wetsuit, I like to have light shoes, but I still like some decent support. So the soles I'm using are the standard felt, but I add the grip stud 1800s to the actual felts. So it's all a process of marking them off. I think I'm running, what was it? I think I have 18, it's either 18 or 21 spikes. I do sets of 3s. I drill it through the felt, through the sole, through the base of the sole and into the sole of the boot, and then I screw them in. So I have a combination of felt and spikes, which gives all around really good grip, whether I'm on just rock or bubbleweed, what have you. So that is my setup when I'm wetsuiting. When I'm on the waders, again, it's the size up, or my normal size, the 12s, and I'm still using the River Ops boots, but I'm using the standard lace-ups. It's just how it worked out, and I haven't run it, I wouldn't mind having the boas, I guess, with the waders, but the laces are the ones that I have with those. So otherwise, they're all the same. Those again also are probably going into their 4th season on. Now, granted, I'm not using the waders as often, but they do get the winter use. So while they're not going all summer long as often because I'm using the wetsuit, they see some winter use. They see some spring and fall when I'm hitting trout streams, things like that. But the sole is where it changes. I'm not using the felt. I'm not using the grip studs. Instead, I'm still using those the same sole system that they have, the Omnitrax 3.0. I wanted to get it right because they keep changing the styles over the years until they've settled on this one. But I use a combination of spikes. So we're kind of, most of us familiar with Korkers and the Carbide tip spikes. I run some of those, but I basically alternate. So as you're looking at a pair, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 rows of spikes from toe to heel. So I start off with the Carbides, then I use a set of the aluminum hex spikes. So it's like a 6-sided spike, kind of a flat thing made of aluminum. So it gives a little bit different grip. So I get the Carbide spikes are grabbing, the aluminum's a little softer, that holds. Then I go to a spike, then I run a set of actually a solid aluminum bar that they offer. That's the first one on my heel. When I step onto a rock, it grabs hold really well, and then I finish off with the Carbide spikes to the back. And I played around with a whole bunch of different combos of the Carbide spikes and the hex bolts and the bars and different things, and this gives an average. It averages out where regardless of what you step on, it's finding purchase. So it's not, the Carbide spikes, if you ever had just straight Korker or straight Carbide spikes and you step on like granite, you can slide. I have literally fallen on my ass with the spikes because of that. Well, the aluminum offsets that. It catches. The aluminum's soft and it really digs in. So it ends up being a really nice average out system. They're pretty lightweight. And again, I'm not having to add an extra set of, Korker sandals. I know you like to use those, Jerry, in some situations. I'll actually use them when I'm fishing outflows and things with that kind of stuff. That's a whole other discussion. But so those are my 2 sets of footwear that basically when I'm wearing the wetsuit one way and I'm wearing the waders the other way.
The spike setup is really intense. As much as we talk and as much as we've talked, and I've interviewed you for at least 8 hours, I think 12, almost 12 hours. We've never talked about that.
Yeah.
I don't think you've ever even showed me.
I played around because when they first came out, when they were prototyping those aluminum, they run bars, so it's a full piece that goes across, or then the little hex spike things. They sent me some different ones to play around with, and the first setup, I went just the aluminums, and the problem is then when those don't grip, you got nothing. So there are times where those are not optimum. So I came up with this averaging all of the 3 options out, and it really is like the best of all 3 worlds. And then I set them placed on my soles depending on where I walk and how I step. So it wasn't just like slap them on the boots and bounce. It took a good number of trips to sort of fine tune where it's at.
Yeah, really important though. I mean, I think we've talked about it maybe on here, but I've definitely talked to my seminar series. Footwear, again, the same way I feel about the clothing, the footwear is really important too because it's a life-saving device potentially. I mean, you need to have good studs because it could be the difference between life and death. And that sounds crazy, but it's not. It's absolutely not. And there have been people who have lost their life out there, and it's really important. So, all right, well, with that uplifting message, we'll do the last product together, kind of. The last product we have together. Toby and I are ride or die night shift. We are in the night shift 99.9%. Is that fair, Toby? 99.9? Yeah, I would say. Maybe 99.99.
Yeah. For hardcore real surf casting, for me these days, it's pretty much 100%. Any daytime is lower pressure.
There's only a very limited time where I go out, and I don't even want to talk about it during the day. It's so limited. But anyways, that said, we do other kinds of fishing, and sunglasses are very important. And we have not talked about them at all, I don't think, on the podcast. Not even the tiniest bit. Like most things that Toby and I get into, where we're nerding out on stuff, like he just did with the spikes, and I just taught you about all of my pet peeves about cotton. I actually know quite a bit about sunglasses, partially because I did a whole piece for Saltwater Sportsman they asked me to write, and I learned a lot in doing the research that I needed to do to write it. So that was cool. So kind of know a little bit about sunglasses, but I've got two different models for you here today. One is brand new to me, and one I've had for about a year. We'll start with the brand new one, and that is the Bajio Greenland. The Bajio Greenland, just got these recently. And the reason I'm doing two glasses is because I feel like these are good to compare to each other because they're kind of similar. And the other pair of glasses that I'm comparing it to are the Costa King Tide 8. The King Tide 8s. Both are a full form factor 8 base sunglass, which basically means that they wrap around. They fully wrap around, fully enclose. Both are, I would say, medium large. I don't care what they say on their website. Medium large lens. Because whenever I read that, I'm like, large face, small face. I don't even know what they're talking about. It seems like I put them on and it's always a crapshoot. It's like the treble hook and circle hook thing. It's like you never know what they're gonna say and like what it is actually gonna end up being. So the Greenland, I weighed them, and this is, well, let me get to that second. The Greenland I have in a green lens. The lens makes a huge difference color. They're a glass lens. I have the glass lens. The glass lens versus the polycarbonate, aka plastic, tends to be a little bit better optics, but it comes with a little bit more weight. That's the short version. I have the green version of these, which is like a moderately dark. The King Tide, I have a copper. They're pretty close, actually, in terms of how dark they are, which is to say they're a medium. I would say they're not that dark. The Greenland fits my face really well. I have a pretty small face. They're a little bit on the big size, but that's okay because it really wraps around and covers the sides and below. Because below and on the side, when you get that light intrusion, that can be a big problem. That can really screw you up. It can be really annoying, and it really annoys me. And I don't know. I'm too anal, I guess. I can't take it. So it like starts to really bother me. So the Greenland's really cut down on that. They're very comfortable for me. They're well built. Okay. Full wraparound, etc. The big thing about the Greenlands that I like is that they're light. So I weighed them. They're only 34 grams. Okay. The King Tides are over 50. They're over 50. Now, that doesn't sound like, oh, it's 50 grams. What's 50? Boy, you can feel it on the face. You can definitely feel it on the face. You take the side covers off of the King Tides because the King Tides have these detachable rubber light blocks that go on the side, which also have vents built into them. You take them off, and it only brings them down into like the mid 40s grams. So the Greenlands are just so much lighter. Now, the Costas, though, these King Tides, they feel a lot more premium. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, Toby, you and I were talking about this. They've got really nice rubberized arms on them. Is that what they're called? That go on the part that goes in your ear?
Yeah.
Arms?
That's what I call it.
Yeah, sure.
Arms.
Rubberized arms. They're chunky. You know, the plastic is chunky. The frames are really chunky around the lens. The nose pieces are moldable, so they're like rubbery, so you can change them. You have some rubber on the Greenlands, but you can't change them. And then there are those blocks on the side, these light blocks, these rubber light blocks. And they really work. And boy, the vents really work. The vents really work. I got to tell you, they also make a fantastic pair of mountain biking glasses because they're like little scoops, and they just scoop that air right into the lens and keeps you from fogging up keeps you from getting hot, although that's, are you really going to get hot? I mean, I've seen that claim too. It's really more about not fogging up. The lenses, of course, from Costa are fantastic. The contrast, the polarization, although polarization is polarization, that's not as big a factor. It's more about the reflective layering and about the contrast, and they're just absolutely fantastic. Really like them. I will say this, Toby, and I'll let you comment. The Costa King Tides might be the nicest pair of sunglasses I've ever put my hands on. I think that they really are the nicest, most premium pair of sunglasses I've ever put my hands on. However, boy, these Bajio Greenlands, when I put them on my face, they disappear. I don't realize I have sunglasses on. I'm constantly aware I have sunglasses on when I have the Costas on. I know I have sunglasses on. The Greenlands just melt right onto my face. And I have a pair of Smith Anglers, I think they're called. Mm-hmm. Shoot, I should have looked up what they were called. And they're like they look like a windshield they wrap around. And I felt that way about them. I felt like they melted on my face. The Greenlands are even better.
It was funny when we were talking about this and the glasses, and you were like, "Oh, I like that the Bajios are lighter and the feel with that." I personally like a heavier pair of glasses. That was one of the things. There's been several glasses I've had over the years I didn't like so much. I like to have a glass lens. I like the benefits of the glass. So what I've found in some ways is if the glass is heavy but the frame is really light, I've actually had them feel almost like they're like wanting to fall off the front of my face if they're not really on well. So I like kind of a sturdy, heavier weight pair of sunglasses overall. I'm not saying, that the King Tides are heavy by any means, but like you said, they're there because I think it's, for me personally, I feel it's like because they fit so well between the rubber on the side, the arms as we're calling it, the setup that you can get where the nose grip, which is part of, I believe that's a feature of Costa's Pro Series, where it's the adjustable rubberized piece for your nose so you can get a better grip as well as vent, and then the side rubber pieces. I'd actually done before these came out a big presentation where they showed all the technical work they did on the back end designing the King Tides. Those rubber side pieces also have a little piece on the top, so we're talking surf fishing obviously, but when you set them down, whether it's on the dash of your car, boat, wherever, that rubber just touches the surface so they don't slide. So it was another little design piece that went into them. I've been using the King Tide 8s like you have, which are more of the wraparound style, or as they call it, sort of the East Coast style. Absolutely love them. I have the blue mirror, and I've worn those inshore, offshore, great all around, great driving. I actually recently picked up a couple more pairs to try out different lenses. On the 8s, I went with the gray glass, which they dub as sort of an all-around as well. I haven't used either of the newer ones a whole lot yet, but that's been pretty good. But I also wanted to try out, because I love the King Tide 8s, the like more wraparound East Coast style. I wanted to try the 6s, King Tide 6. They both debuted at the same time, but the 6s are what they look more to, they design more as a West Coast style, and that's more the boxy frame. So if you're not an angler or a person who likes the wraparound feel, the 6s are more boxy on the sides. And I'll say, as soon as I threw them on, I noticed it instantly. It didn't have the same feel. I still like them, but I could definitely feel the difference. I could see the difference, the way the light comes in differently. But they actually, I noticed they have larger side blockers. Those rubber pieces are bigger on the 6s to still block the light out. So that was kind of a nice little touch. Haven't had a whole lot of use on them yet, but I wanted to try them also because they had the new rose lenses, which are supposed to be even more of an all-around lens color, which I thought was kind of interesting because I've had yellowish rose type lenses in the past. Those always tended to do really well in lower light. So I'm going to be kind of playing around with that for different conditions as well. But I've absolutely loved the King Tides, the 8s all along. Now trying out the 6s, as well. So we'll see how they all work out. But yeah, they're my primary sunglasses right now for the Sometimes not so much when I'm surf fishing in the daylight, as we pointed out. But I mean, there's times you got to be driving during the daylight, so they're
Or scouting.
an accessory essentially. What's that?
Or scouting.
Yeah, exactly. And the polarization is wonderful on them for sure.
Yeah.
One thing we actually forgot to mention when we started this is we'll include links to everything that we discussed, all the products. We'll put links up in the description along with our usual advertiser links, which you should all be checking out as you go along. I want to thank all those advertisers and send you all those to the different websites for those companies as well. So be sure to check that out.
Yeah. So we hope that maybe some of these products will make your surf fishing not just more productive, but maybe more enjoyable. We had a lot of enjoyment products today, which we did not plan at all. We did not plan at all. But yeah, we hope that these are good. And if you have suggestions or questions for a future gear episode, let us know in comments or send us a message on social, and you might see it on the next episode of the Surfcast podcast. This has been a weekly edition of the Surfcast podcast. You can find out more about the podcast at surfcastpodcast.com, or definitely check us out on social media, Facebook, Instagram, at the Surfcast Podcast.